Alexander versus Darius III, the Clash of Empires. In the 4th century BCE, two powerful figures clashed in a struggle that would change the ancient world. Alexander the Great, a young king with unbridled ambition, and Darius III, the ruler of the vast Persian Empire. Their rivalry was not just a conflict of armies but a collision of cultures, ideologies, and visions of empire. This is the story of their dramatic confrontation, marked by strategic brilliance, fierce battles, and a rivalry that would reshape history. Chapter 1: The Rise of Alexander and the Persian Empire. When Alexander ascended the throne of Macedonia in 336 BCE, he inherited a strong, disciplined army from his father, King Philip II. But Alexander's ambitions extended far beyond Greece. He dreamed of conquering Persia, the largest and wealthiest empire of the ancient world. Persia, under King Darius III, controlled a vast expanse from Asia Minor to Egypt and India, and it had long been a rival to the Greek city-states. Darius III, however, had not yet faced a threat like Alexander. Though he was the ruler of a wealthy empire, Darius had ascended to the throne only recently and lacked the military experience of his predecessors. When Alexander began his campaign in Asia Minor, Darius underestimated the Macedonian king, assuming he was merely a regional threat. But Alexander's rapid victories soon drew Darius into a high-stakes conflict that would test his resolve and the might of his empire. Chapter 2: The First Encounter, Battle of Issus. In 333 BCE, after securing Asia Minor, Alexander advanced into Cilicia, where he encountered Darius for the first time at the Battle of Issus. Darius, aware of Alexander's growing reputation, assembled a massive army to crush the Macedonian forces. He positioned his forces on the plains near the narrow pass at Issus, confident that his overwhelming numbers would make victory certain. Alexander, however, capitalized on the narrow terrain, which neutralized the advantage of Darius's larger army. He placed his phalanx in the center and led his companion cavalry on the right flank, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the battle raged, Alexander spotted Darius's chariot in the distance and led a daring charge straight toward the Persian king. This move panicked Darius, who turned and fled, abandoning his soldiers to a devastating defeat. The victory at Issus was a psychological triumph for Alexander, solidifying his reputation as a formidable commander. For Darius, it was a humiliating setback, one that exposed cracks in the Persian Empire. Darius's family, who had been present at the battlefield, was captured by Alexander, and though Alexander treated them with respect, Darius faced the shame of failing to protect them. From that moment on, Darius was not only fighting to preserve his empire but to reclaim his honor. Chapter 3: Diplomacy and Defiance. In the aftermath of Issus, Darius attempted to negotiate with Alexander, offering a large ransom for his family's release and proposing a territorial compromise. Darius's offer included the lands west of the Euphrates River, a substantial portion of his empire. But Alexander, emboldened by his victory, refused. He declared that he would settle for nothing less than the entire Persian Empire. Darius sent multiple envoys, each with increasingly generous offers, but Alexander's ambitions were boundless. He intended to conquer Persia fully, not settle for a fraction of its wealth and territory. Frustrated but determined, Darius began preparing for a final confrontation, gathering an army larger than any he had fielded before. Chapter 4: The Siege of Tyre, a Show of Determination. Before their next encounter, Alexander faced the formidable task of securing the eastern Mediterranean coast, which was dotted with Persian-aligned cities. The most challenging of these was Tyre, a fortified island city with a powerful navy. Tyre's strategic location and Persian support made it essential to control if Alexander was to maintain his supply lines for a deeper push into Persia. The Tyrians refused to surrender, prompting Alexander to launch one of his most legendary sieges. He ordered the construction of a massive causeway to connect the island city to the mainland, allowing his troops to breach Tyre's walls. The siege lasted 7 months, with Alexander rebuilding the causeway each time it was destroyed. Finally, Tyre fell, showcasing Alexander's relentless determination. The siege of Tyre sent a clear message to Darius: Alexander was willing to overcome any obstacle in his path. The conquest of Tyre secured Alexander's control of the Mediterranean and paved the way for his eventual march into Persia. Chapter 5. The Battle of Gaugamela, the Decisive Showdown. In 331 BCE, the two kings met once again at Gaugamela, a wide plain in modern-day Iraq. Darius had prepared extensively for this battle, assembling one of the largest armies in ancient history, complete with war elephants and scythe-bearing chariots. Confident in his numbers and the favorable terrain, Darius believed that Gaugamela would be Alexander's undoing. Alexander, however, saw Gaugamela as the culmination of his ambitions. He carefully studied the battlefield and prepared his troops for one of the most critical battles of their lives. As the battle began, Alexander used a feigned retreat on his right flank to draw the Persian forces out of formation. This maneuver created a gap in the Persian line, and Alexander led his companion cavalry in a fierce charge straight at Darius's position. Caught off guard, Darius once again saw his lines collapse under the weight of Alexander's assault. Fearful for his life, Darius fled, leaving his army leaderless and sealing Persia's fate. Alexander's victory at Gaugamela marked the end of the Persian Empire. He marched unopposed into the Persian capitals of Babylon, Susa, and eventually Persepolis, where he was declared the King of Kings. Chapter 6. The Fall of Persepolis, a Symbol of Conquest. With Darius on the run and the Persian Empire effectively defeated, Alexander entered Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of Persia. The wealth of the city was staggering, a testament to Persia's centuries of dominance. Yet, as a symbolic act of retribution for the Persian invasions of Greece, Alexander ordered the palace at Persepolis to be burned. The burning of Persepolis was a powerful gesture, signaling the end of Persian rule and the rise of Alexander's empire. Though he regretted it afterward, the act symbolized the passing of an era. For Alexander, the conquest of Persia was complete, but his ambitions stretched even further eastward. He would pursue Darius and attempt to unite the territories he had won. Chapter 7. The Pursuit and Death of Darius. Despite his crushing defeat at Gaugamela, Darius continued to flee, hoping to regroup and reclaim his empire. But the Persian king was betrayed by his own men, who saw him as a weakened leader. Darius was captured by the satrap Bessus, who declared himself king in an attempt to gain favor with Alexander. However, fearing reprisal, Bessus ultimately killed Darius. When Alexander found Darius's body, he was deeply affected. Despite their enmity, Alexander admired Darius as a worthy rival. He ordered that Darius be buried with full honors, treating him as a fellow king rather than a defeated enemy. This final act of respect showed Alexander's understanding of the weight of kingship and the shared legacy he and Darius would leave behind. Chapter 9. Consolidation of the Persian Empire. After Darius's death, Alexander found himself not only the victor of a vast empire but the new ruler of Persia. His initial victories had been won on the battlefield, but now he faced the complex challenge of governing and uniting an empire that spanned thousands of miles and consisted of countless cultures, languages, and traditions. Rather than imposing strict Macedonian rule, Alexander adopted a policy of integration, aiming to blend Greek and Persian customs to create a new, unified empire. Alexander embraced Persian court customs, dressed in Persian attire, and encouraged his generals to do the same. He married Roxana, a Persian noblewoman, as a symbolic gesture of unity, and he also organized a mass wedding at Susa, where thousands of his soldiers married Persian women. While these actions strengthened his legitimacy in the eyes of his new Persian subjects, they caused unrest among his Macedonian soldiers, who felt he was abandoning his Greek heritage. To consolidate his rule, Alexander also implemented a system of satraps, provincial governors, that blended Macedonian and Persian administrative practices. He retained many Persian officials and appointed Macedonian officers as overseers, creating a balanced governance structure that allowed him to maintain control while honoring local customs. Chapter 10. The Foundations of the Hellenistic World. As Alexander worked to integrate Persia into his empire, he continued to promote Greek culture throughout his territories. He founded numerous cities, including Alexandria in Egypt and several others across Persia and Central Asia. These cities served as centers of Greek learning, art, and philosophy, and many were strategically located along trade routes, allowing them to become hubs of commerce and cultural exchange. The cities Alexander established also featured theaters, temples, gymnasiums, and other hallmarks of Greek civilization, which attracted scholars, artisans, and merchants from various backgrounds. In these cities, Greek and Eastern influences blended, creating a unique Hellenistic culture that would endure long after Alexander's empire fractured. This new culture would spread Greek ideas and art across Asia and bring Eastern sciences and philosophies back to the Mediterranean. Alexander's vision of a culturally unified empire laid the foundations for the Hellenistic Age, an era that saw unprecedented advances in art, science, and philosophy. Although his dream of a politically united empire did not survive his death, the cultural synthesis he promoted reshaped the ancient world and connected East and West in ways previously unimaginable.